All right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Soft Elbows. It is election day, and if you've come for election-related updates, you've come to the wrong fucking
Yeah,
place. We will
leave
not be
now.
talking about that. Um, who knows whether this will be the last Soft Elbows episode ever? They might outlaw us. If not Brian, then who? But in the meantime, while you still have us, while we still have you, we have Abby. Are you ready? We have Lady Sarah Tyler in the house.
What's
This is
up?
big. This is big for us. Like I don't know that we've ever had like a dame or a duchess or like
We've
Lady
never
Sarah
had
Tyler,
royalty.
like this. I feel like we're stepping up here, guys. This is a new
Yeah,
territory for us.
I'd
it's
say
actually
so.
official. I am actually a lady. I own this much of land in Scotland.
Great.
I
We
love that so much.
We've never had a guest on the show who owned land, probably anywhere. I don't know. We have to go back and check. So
Yeah,
this
take
is
that, Big Jake.
Yeah, Big Jake.
we are going to cover a lot of different topics on this week's episode. We are going to talk about several meets that happened over the weekend. We had No Matter What Open in Baltimore. We had the Mach 10 liftoff in Rockville. Abby competed in a super secret meet in the some bunker in West Virginia that we're not supposed to know about, but we're going to talk about anyway. Lady Sarah, did you compete anywhere over the weekend?
I did not compete anywhere over the
Oh.
weekend.
All right. Well, we're gonna get your thoughts on how everyone else did anyway. Feel free to judge. This is a very judge-centric zone where we've created here. Abby also has a couple of topics, hot topics, lukewarm topics. I don't know. We'll find out.
Oh
That
no,
we're
they're blazing. They're blazing hot.
they're blazing hot.
Yeah.
We're gonna get really controversial.
Love a hot take.
I hope so. Let's start with a little bit of recapping from this past weekend, or we're recording this on Sunday, but this past weekend to all of you who are watching now, Tuesday, instead of the existential dread that I imagine you very much want to be in. Thank you for being here with us, by the way. Let's talk first about the No Matter What Open. Abby wasn't there. I wasn't there. Lady Sarah wasn't there, but I'll tell you who was there. Kelly Nichols, our own Kelly Nichols from the DMV WSO board was there. She did phenomenally. Allegedly, it was a train through meet, but she did 5 for 6. She went 5 for 6. The lifts look great that she posted, and I'm just gonna guess that she's happy with her performance because she refused to come on the show. That's actually not true. We didn't invite her on the show, not yet. Please, Kelly, don't send any. Abby, do you get complaints? Sorry, real quick. We're going to get back to Kelly and everyone else's great performance. I have a question for Abby. On a weekly basis, how many complaints do you get about just my general persona on this show?
At least 4, but 3 of
At
them are
least,
from Big Jake.
great. And I
Yeah.
hope
He
the other
likes to complain, though. I feel like
He
that's tracks.
loves to complain about Steve.
I hope that the other one is from my mom, who, as we've discussed, is like the only other person who watches this show.
Well, the other one is actually Chris. He's a little upset with you and Brian right now. We can get into that feud in a minute.
Great. Before we go there, let's come back from my tangent and talk about the No Matter What Open. Our guest, one of our guests from last episode, was Jason Morstein, who runs Bassa. Bassa ran No Matter What. They, from everything I've seen, looked like it was another phenomenal meet. And there was no like bloodbath feud between Jason and Arthur, which from like a content standpoint, I was a little bit disappointed in, but like from like a general let's keep the peace thing, that was probably a good thing, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
Abby, do you want to talk about your bunker meet?
Yeah, so
Let's go.
So, full disclosure, like I'm not competing again until Arnold.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. I'm not competing until the Arnold's. I'm not doing finals. I just right now, like, I'm not in a space where like I can think about traveling across the country to, go and compete on a national stage. Like, I really just don't want to do it right now. The competition that I did in West Virginia this weekend, Al Risk, his gym, and then Joe Green with Sovereign Weightlifting. Two great people. They had asked me actually a while ago if I had any interest in, you know, doing this meet. They were kind of low on entries, and I adore them in their teams. Just really, really, really wonderful people, all of them. And so like I was like, heck yeah, I'm down to have fun. My coach is probably not going to be able to go. He actually had a hockey tournament all weekend. So shout out to Nico from DC Barbell. He came out to, you know, run my cards at a super, super low key meet. Just can't thank him enough. But it was a good time. There were 2 sessions, and there was one gal that competed in my session she qualified for finals for the first time. Miriam Grafton. I don't know if either of you guys have ever seen her lift. She's one of Al's youth athletes. She kicks ass. I have never seen that girl not have a good competition. Like, she goes out in PRs, and like, she's just such positive energy, and you can tell she loves it so much. I love lifting with Miriam. She did a great job, and like, just seeing her, like, how far she's come, you know, weight wise, like, her technique has always been really, really beautiful, but seeing how her weights have progressed and just seeing her develop as an athlete has been really, really awesome. And so she did great. And then I don't think I stayed for the men's session, but I did have to squat after my session. That was my kind of ticket to ride and to send it a little bit. You know, we didn't want to, we weren't going for any big numbers, but, you know, it was nice to kind of put some of the technical changes I've been working really hard on together, and, you know, to be able to go out and hit 90-ish% in each lift. But what wasn't very nice was the 10 RM front squat that I had to do afterwards.
I've done 10 RM back squat. I years ago when I had no idea, I had even less of an idea what I was doing then than I do now. I did this like 20 rep max back squat program where you were like doing it multiple times a week. It was crazy.
Dang.
Are you okay? Blink twice if you need help.
I feel like Chad Vaughn loves those 20 rep maxes. I always like hear him talking about 20 RMs.
If you guys have learned nothing else, it's that no one self-loathes like I self-loathe. So if it's miserable, I'm doing it. Anyway, my point was going to be that like 10 rep max back squat is terrible. 10 rep max front squat sounds just like a whole different level of
I don't think I've ever done that.
Not a good time.
So unpopular opinion, I actually really enjoy doing front squat 10s in general. I think they're a really good challenge. And for me specifically, I've always struggled with the front squat. Like, when I met Steve in 2017 or 2018, I forget when it was, I think 100 would have been a PR. Like, and so it's really fun for me just to see that, you know, I put 100 on the bar and I did it for 9 reps. I did dump my 10th rep. So I still don't have 110 rep max, but I did reload the bar and do 2 extras. So 1 to complete the 10 and 1 more as punishment for having weak legs. But like, they're fun because like, front squats are not just your legs. You have to engage your core. You have to engage your body. Like, it's an entire, like, your whole body is used, and like, you will see just so much more carryover, like, in just staying tight and being able to breathe and brace like through a clean by doing high volume front squats. So my hot take today is that high rep front squats are criminally underrated and more lifters should be doing them.
Yeah, maybe I should be doing them. Maybe I'd have stronger legs and core if I did.
You know, I feel like strength is not at a deficit for you, Sarah. I don't think anyone's ever like seen you lift and been like, man, if only she was stronger, you know? Like, I feel like you're doing all right in that category, no?
Yeah. Raw strength is definitely my weakness, to be honest.
What? All right, we'll talk about that later. I'm going to dispute that, not even knowing all the facts, which is also something I love to do. Abby, would you do all of our fan a favor and someone got it. My jokes are only I just need one. I don't need everybody. I just need one.
Just need one.
Abby, I want you to give another go at this 100 kilo 10 rep max back squat.
Yeah.
Front squat. My bad. I'm still like trying to wish this upon you because I don't want you to die.
So,
but I want you to live stream it on the DMV feed.
I don't know about all that. We'll see. If we get 1,000 followers within, if we get, when we
this is the old, like, if we get 100 people to sign up for WSO championships, we'll get a dunk tank and Mike Joy will jump off a trampoline or some shit.
Well, we have like 8 followers to go, so it's on the horizon, I think. No,
definitely doable.
If we hit 1,000 followers and if somebody sponsors my Orange Rain, I'll live stream my next attempt at a 10 RM. And I'll stream the whole thing too. So you can like see how I warm up for a 10 RM front squat, and you can see that I don't do 10s the whole way up. Someone actually publicly called me out for that. They were watching me like do it, and he came up to me and he was like, so you're one of those people that voted, you know, that you don't do 10s the whole way up on your poll. And I was like,
well, why would you do that? That feels like such a waste of energy.
Well, and yeah, it is. And here's the other thing too, is like, for a younger, like less experienced lifter, yeah, maybe you should do a few sets of 10s before you find your 10 RM. But like, I don't think that for someone like me who's been in the sport for a minute, I don't think there's any reason that I shouldn't know where my strength is at for that attempt. Like, I've been talking about how I'm ready for 100 by 10 for the past few weeks. And I did 88 for 10 for 3 sets like a couple weekends ago. And so like I had an idea that 100 was going to be it. And so, yeah, why am I going to waste time and energy fucking around with like, you know, doing 92 for 10, you know, when, you know, I really know that I'm capable of at least 100. So yes.
Fair.
It's for the sake of the suffering, Abby.
Yeah, no, don't you worry. I suffered enough. I'll post, you know what? I'll post the lift for everyone on the DMV page. Like, I'm not going to tag myself because I actually hate another unrelated tangent. I hate tagging myself and plugging myself on the DMV page. Like, you know, I really do. So
Abby, hold on. How many times has DMV weightlifting posted something and then your personal account will like and or comment something with the DMV, which is also you, Abby?
That's different. So no, that's different.
Yeah, that's different.
That's different because I'm being goofy. Number one, it's a bit. Number two, like it's you know, funny. And I'm also not doing it to be like, look how much of a good lifter I am. Like that's what I mean when I say I'm not going to plug myself as a weightlifter or promote myself as a weightlifter. I'm going to promote myself as a fucking goofball. Yeah, all day. But I'm not going to plug myself as a weightlifter on the DMV account because I just think that's so tacky. But that's just my take. People may agree or disagree with it. That's just how I feel.
Oh, okay. All right. Before we get into other hot topics, where we get to hear how Abby feels, I want to real quick talk about the Mach 10 liftoff, which also happened this past weekend. I was there for a little bit of it. It was really, a lot of people came up to me and said that it was just a very like, it knew what it was and it did that thing really well. And people had a good time. Awesome. There were like a lot of people went 6 for 6. A lot of people had really successful days. I got the opportunity to coach a couple of those folks. And by coach, I mean, like I counted for them. Like I'm not trying to take credit for anything that they did. Like the work that they and their coaches have done, everyone's doing a phenomenal job. And in spite of me, they still managed to have a great day. But 2 people in specific, one, Sam Artiga, who's a master's lifter. She's going to be at AO finals, was using this as a train through meet. Expressed a little bit of nerves because it seemed like maybe train through meets weren't typically a thing that she has had success on in the past, and really was able to just lock in and focus on each lift and went 6 for 6, and I hope had a good time. I guess I'll find out in the comments section of this episode. And then also Evan Bauer, who from CHFP weightlifting,
great job.
This dude had a lights out day. Like he was in the zone. He came in with a goal,
for him.
And that goal was to qualify for youth nationals. And he knew coming in, he had to go 6 for 6 in order to do it. And then just like systematically knocked out each lift, went 6 for 6, qualified for youth nationals. He was pumped. It was great. It was just awesome to be a part of that. And then one other guy who I didn't run, but who I've trained with before, Luke Baumgartner, he took 8 years off from competing in weightlifting, 8 years off. And then Mach 10 lift dog, was his first meet back. Went 4 for 6. I think he made his first snatch and first clean jerk, which I don't know if he was like just being like exaggerating or whatever, but he said that he had never made his first lifts in a competition before. So like it was great to see him back out there and doing well. And yeah, it was really well run meet. And it was cool that this area could support having multiple well-run meets happen in the same weekend at the same time, same place, not the same place. Guys, sometimes I just start sentences. Who knows where they're going to go? I certainly don't. Let's
Michael
move
Scott.
on. What's that?
I said, okay, Michael Scott.
It's true. Let's move on. Abby, you got some topics for us to discuss? I definitely want to hear what Lady Sarah feels about this stuff.
Yeah. So a couple weekends ago, my friend Steph and I dropped in at Tyson's playground to go lift with Victoria and Troy, lift with the power couple. First of all, actually shout out to Troy. He clean and jerked, I think it was 170 while we were there, and it was a great lift. Vic did amazing too, but it was a really fun time, and we had a good group of people there. But I digress. While we were there, I had asked where the clips were, and somebody had come up to me with like the Rogue clips that are like, they've got the little metal circles, but then they've got like a rubber clasp that like snaps it into place when it's on your barbell. And I was like, that's okay. Like, I'm gonna look for a pair of spring-loaded clips. And someone was like, are you a serial killer? Like, what? Are you like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, I like the spring-loaded clips. The ones that are like, they're metal wired and like you clasp them and it goes on the barbell and you clasp it again to take it off the barbell.
The ones where you got to work your grip. You gotta have strong grip.
Yeah. You work the grippers. And so that was apparently a very controversial, request. And so they were like, you should do that as a poll on the DMV page. And I was like, you know what? I should. And I sure did. And oh my goodness gracious, the opinions, they flooded in. Like it had to be our most engaged with poll ever. Like, I think it was at least 80 people had an opinion on which clip is best. And then the responses they went crazy. So the options were the Rogue clip with the rubber thing. I don't know what they're called. I still don't know what they're called. The spring-loaded clips, comp collars, or no clips, just barbell. I think those are like the four most common ones that I see. A couple people responded like on the next slide, like the question one, and like had these plastic ones that are like similar to option number 1 with the rubber clasp, but it's all plastic. Those were pretty popular too, but like I think by and large people like those first Rogue clips for some reason. I can't stand them. They are so hard to get on and off the barbell. That rubber clasp never works easily. Like, and also they're not that effective. Those things still slide all over the place, except now it's even harder for me to reset my barbell and like get the clips like flush against the plates because they're a pain in the ass to use. So yeah, my spring-loaded clips, I'm going to adjust between every set, but at least they're easy to do so. Whereas like when the Rogue ones shift, they're a pain in the ass to get back into place. And then taking them off is a nightmare. Like the last thing I want to do when I'm tired after a 10 RM front squat is fuck with the clip. That's really hard to get off the barbell. Do you know how mentally frustrating that would be after I've just physically destroyed myself?
Wait, so you squat with clips?
Yes, I do. And especially a 10 RM front squat. I don't want them things sliding all over the place. Like, anyway.
I can see if your plates were almost to the edge of the barbell using clips, but I never squat with clips.
I had 55 kilos on the bar and them bitches were sliding. And I was like, nope, I need clips. So I went and found clips.
Maybe if you have those plates that are super like slidey, like slippery, maybe then.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for validating me.
Sarah, where do you land on this super controversial topic?
I don't really use clips.
Yes. Sarah, I knew that you and I would be kindred spirits. And
But then Jake had to call me out and tell me that it's because I like to spend 45 seconds apparently. Apparently he times me between my doubles. 45 seconds was what he said that I take between.
He's got plenty of time to time you and everyone else when he's busy not competing at nationals. And
yeah.
I just like I've never had a lift where the plates so closely came to the edge of the bar where I was in danger of like losing one side of them. Like, so they're floating around a little bit. It's an extra like core exercise. I don't know, like, but like, have you ever taken a lift without clips and been legitimately worried that one side was gonna come off?
Yeah.
No, you haven't. Get out of here.
I mean, I still do it. Like, I remember I had a clean one a couple of times. I think maybe 2 or 3 times where the plates are sliding off as I'm like resetting for my jerk. And I do the jerk anyway, and then like a change plate will fall off.
Because you like to live dangerously, and I respect that about you.
Have you guys seen that clip of the I think she's a Polish lifter, Martina Delega? Have you seen, like, at Euros, her comp collar came undone and she cleans like 115 or something stupid and stands up and the plate is literally sliding off as she goes to take the jerk and she still makes the lift, I'm pretty sure. Crazy.
You know why? Because she was prepared for that because she doesn't train with clips. I actually don't know if that's true or not.
What was the Olympics where they had works on stuff? Because I remember that one Olympics where the whole thing just fell off and the bar's like, Wah.
There is.
Was it 08 or 2012?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Don't answer that, Sarah. Don't date yourself. Don't answer that. Well, you and I know the answer. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter. All right. Next topic. You haven't used this as a poll yet. I actually don't know how you could use this as a poll, but you're more creative than me. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Talk about the training epiphany that you had this week that you were texting me about. Oh no. Is it already gone?
Nothing in my brain.
I'll remind you of the epiphany that you had and shared with me.
Yeah, please.
You were telling me that I don't know how recently, but your most recent training cycle prior to this one was apparently one where you were convinced that you would never lift another even semi-decent lift ever again.
Yeah.
And all it took was just starting a new program, and here you are out here posting about how you're doing a 47 rep max front squat or whatever it is you're doing.
I didn't post about my front squat.
Not yet.
So yeah, she's
going to harm me.
I'm gonna harm you. Yeah. The cryptids of West Virginia are gonna come after Steve. I paid them all or summoned them all.
I'm here for it.
Thanks. No, so the last training cycle that I went through after WSO. Now, mind you, some of this is self-inflicted, right? Because we had WSO and then I quit my job. I started a new job. I went to Wyoming. I had a week off of weightlifting when I was in Wyoming. I moved in, to, a different place to live temporarily. And like, I had some time off, right? I was doing mostly 4 days a week for at least 4 or 5 weeks of this 6-week cycle that I just finished. And so like the whole point of it, I have this horrible habit where number 1, I can't stay flat long enough. And number 2, my pole just in general, I have a hard time getting my knees back and then shooting my knees forward and getting the barbell into my hip crease. And also my timing is janky and like, just a bunch of things that are like goofy with my pole and that are holding me back from taking the next step. So I was like, all right, we're honing in technique, we're skipping finals, and we're gonna do technique, we're gonna do strength, and I'm gonna be a fucking hoss by the time the Arnold comes around. And so I spent most of this cycle feeling incredibly unconfident. Like I would try my hardest to implement these changes and to do the thing, and my brain for some reason would just like literally it would be radio static in there, and I would forget like dumb stuff. Like for example, like if I were dropping in at DC barbell, Nico would tell me like pause, like when you catch, pause in the catch, and like I would be so focused on 3 of the other 7 cues that like I'm trying to fix that I would completely forget to pause in the catch. She'd be like, what are you doing? You're not pausing. And I would think, I know, I'm sorry. And like, it's so frustrating for me. Like when I want to do something correctly and I just can't make myself do it all correctly. So anyway, I've had like so many conversations, but like with just in general about no, like you need to focus on one thing at a time. All of these changes over time will create better habits. Like stop trying to do too much all at once. And so anyway, point being, I spent most of this cycle trying to do too much and change too much. And it sent my brain into an absolute tizzy. And I was like clarking dumb lifts. Like I was clarking like a 66 kilo snatch. Like I haven't missed a 66 kilo snatch in ages. And like, and here's the other thing too. Like I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. Like I've realized like going through this cycle that like when you are making huge technical changes like this, you can't compare to your old maxes. I can't sit there and be like, but I snatched 91 at the Arnold. Yeah, I snatched 91 at the Arnold and like I had suboptimal technique and it was good enough, you know, for 91 kilo snatch at the Arnold, but that is not going to be good enough if I want to break DMB records, right? It's not going to be good enough. And so I can't think about what my PRs are and what I should be doing. I need to think about what's on the bar right now? How do I move this weight properly? Right. And so anyway, tangent over. I went through this 6-week cycle trying to fix that mindset while also fixing my technique. And like towards the end of the cycle, it started to make more sense. And I started to figure out what I needed to do with my body to do what my coaches were telling me to do. And then all of a sudden this week, like the cycle flipped to like volume, EMOMs, tempos, and I'm like, oh, I'm implementing the changes and I'm not even having to think about it that much. And like, there's still work to be done. There's always work to be done, right? But like, and so like I texted Steve on one of the days that I was having a particularly good morning and or afternoon. I don't remember what time of day it was, but I texted Steve and I was like, I think sometimes we all need to just have a cycle where we think we don't know how to lift or do anything properly ever. And then when the cycle is over, we all of a sudden will know what we're doing and we'll be able to make those changes. And so I think, and my coaches, like, you know, forgive me for not understanding this sooner, but like they've all told me, like, you need to leave your ego at the door, so to speak, and you know you have to be willing to be uncomfortable with making these changes to take you somewhere in the long run. Like it's not about having a good cycle. It's about what changes do I need to make in this cycle so that I can have a great competition a year from now. I'm not going to see the results until the future. You're working towards the future. You're frustrating yourself now to have a great future. And so like, you know, again, forgive me for not understanding that point sooner to my coaches, but like, you know, I think that's what a lot of lifters are lacking. And if we just let ourselves be in hell for a little bit, I think we'll be surprised at how good things get very quickly as soon as we're not in hell.
Sarah, have you had an experience like that where you've gone through
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, who hasn't? I think that I think we are constantly going through this. I think it's like we're like, oh my God, this thing is happening and I don't understand. But then if we look back, maybe last cycle or the last cycle before that, it was also happening just in a different way. And I think that these situations help remind us that we just gotta, like you said, Abby, take it one thing at a time. Like we're chipping away at these things little by little. You can't expect yourself to like hear a cue and then change something that you've, you know, put rep after rep after rep and established a negative movement pattern, and then having to like fix it. You have to do that many reps to then fix it. It doesn't just happen overnight. And I mean, I go through moments like that too, where I'm texting my coach and barely hanging on and about to jump off the cliff, I guess you could say. And he's got to rein me in and basically tells me the same thing every time. Like, just focus on one thing at a time. You know, we're working on this, focus on that, and get after it. You know,
I love that.
I agree with some of the things Abby said, and I certainly agree with like, you can't I think the comparison is actually can be useful here, but not the compare, like to Abby's point, like saying like, I can't believe I can't make this now when I made X weight at X meet sometime in the past. Like, I agree that that's not helpful, but I think that there is some benefit to comparing things from like a perspective standpoint. Like, one of the things I just heard you say was like, I was clocking things like a 66 kilo snatch. I imagine there was a time when 66 kilos was a heavy weight for you. And so, if it's all about, framework, right? So if rather than, I can't believe I'm clocking 66, it's actually pretty cool that now that's like your floor, right? Like, oh my God, I'm clocking 66, when there was probably a time some amount of years ago when you would be like, oh my God, I hit 66 for the first time. This is like the greatest, to that point, the greatest day in your lifting career was the day first time you snatched 66. And now it's this like semi-embarrassing thing where you're like, oh my God, I can't even like get this, like this thing. We've all got numbers where that's true, where like now I would be disappointed if I couldn't snatch X number of kilos. But there was a time when I would have been thrilled, absolutely thrilled to snatch that weight. And it's important to remember that like you're not where you want to be. You're still working on where you want to go, but like you're a long way from where you came or from where you started out. I think it's the ultimate Zen level of lifting, or probably many things in life, is when you realize in the moment, okay, this sucks now. I'm struggling now. I think that I won't ever make another lift ever again. And then knowing in the moment, like, this is part of the process. I will come out the other side. Like, but that's like, the master levels in. And it's much easier. It's much easier to say that in retrospect. It's much easier to tell somebody else to feel that way. But like when you're in it and you care about the thing that you're spending all this time and energy on, it's really tough to do. But I think it's just, I laughed when you sent me those text messages, because I've had those moments where you're just like, you know what? Fuck this sport. I'm never coming back.
I'm done.
On your way out the door, you're like, I'll see you guys tomorrow, right? And everyone's like, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Like, all right, okay, cool. Like, like that's weightlifting is different from many other sports. I won't say all of the sports, but like, when a golfer is struggling with their putting, that is a mental battle. That is an emotional battle for sure. And I imagine, I don't golf, but I imagine that like you go through phases where like you're not putting well for months, maybe years. And then one day, somewhat inexplicably, you just start putting well. And it's because of all the little things you were working on the whole time.
Yeah.
The part where weightlifting is additionally challenging is it is a mental battle and it is an emotional battle. It is also very much a physical battle it's rare, I think, in sports for it to be all three of those things, which I think makes it harder in weightlifting. It's not just the toll it takes on your mind and on your spirit, but you're also like, every lift you take is like, that's one more thing out of you. Like the putter only weighs so much, but that barbell weighs a lot, like, the other thing, we get a bunch of like golfers like coming at me, like I respect golfers. You're all athletes. We're all proud of you. Anyway, go ahead.
The other thing too, someone just said this to me recently, and it blew my mind, right? I think these kind of changes that we're like trying to implement, and like the three of us have each been in the sport for a minute, right? Like I've been in the sport for at least 7.5 years now. Sarah, I'd imagine same. Steve, once again, like I met you in 2018. I know you've been around. So like it gets harder to make these changes because we've been so in the sport for so long, because we know the things like anxiety, we know things like bombing out, we almost know to be afraid of these, not afraid is a bad word, but like we have things that we can be weary about that we've experienced over our careers. Whereas like a new lifter or someone who's not been immersed in the weightlifting world for so long, they have no idea, any of these things. All they know is barbell, my coach is telling me do this with my body, and now I can do this with my body, and boom, I just PR'd. Like I think it was like such an interesting point, and something I've never even thought of anymore, like that the longer you're in the sport, the harder it gets to make these changes. And so like when our friends are struggling, I think that might even be a good reminder for them too, is just to like, we've been in the sport for a while. We know there's things that we're weary about because we've been here for so long. And, the only way that we keep going through the sport is if we try to put those things aside and just trust that the changes are going to come as well. But I thought that was just a really interesting point. Being somebody who's a little more tenured in weightlifting.
Yeah, it's almost like as we evolve as athletes, we get smarter in the sport. Like we learn more and we gain more knowledge. And I think with that knowledge, we like overthink it.
Yeah, it works against us.
Yeah, for sure.
You never get to the point where you never get to the point where you stop struggling. You just struggle differently.
Yes.
Weightlifting. Stay with it, kids. Like, what a terrible endorsement. Yikes. Let's move on. I want to center the conversation now on our guest, Sarah Tyler, who allegedly has a strength issue. Sure. But like, whatever. She is a mother of three, a coach, has a full-time job, and is still competing at a high level. You will never be able to convince me that strength is an issue for you, but please make your case. Tell us about you, Miss Lady Sarah Tyler.
Well, where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start
From
at my
the very
strength?
beginning, don't leave anything out. You were born on a Wednesday. It was cloudy.
How did you get into weightlifting, Sarah?
Sure, we can start there.
Well, I think like most people in the early 2010s, they got into weightlifting through CrossFit, and that's how I found weightlifting. I started CrossFit in 2014 and just kind of fell in love with CrossFit. I still actually really love CrossFit. I do it every so often on off season and maybe throw in a workout once a week or so. I coach CrossFit, so it's hard to not take part in the fun when you're like coaching it. So I started in 2014, and then about 2016, I made the decision to just kind of focus on weightlifting solely. And backing up, the first time we had a snatch workout in like 2014 when I started, I snatched 125 pounds. And I think the first deadlift workout, I deadlift 195. So I knew that it was something that just kind of came natural to me. And so it was really exciting to be good at something, because I have never really been good at anything like that. You work really hard at something, you get good at it, but I've never really been good at something right away. And I was 34 when I started. And when I started solely doing weightlifting and competing, I was already a master. So I was 35 in my first competition with SoCal. I joined SoCal in 2017, and the rest is history.
The rest is history in that you are still with SoCal. That's correct. That's who you represent.
Yeah.
But you have since moved to Richmond. That's where you're based out of now. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm like 30 minutes outside Richmond. I've been here for about 4.5 years, which is wild because I was in person with SoCal for 3 years, from 2017 to 2020, and I moved here in 2020. So I've been a remote athlete longer than I was in person, which is absolutely wild to me because it doesn't feel like it's been 4.5 years, but it has been.
And what gym do you lift out of in the Richmond area? You said 30 miles outside of Richmond. Where exactly do you train, and what's that environment like?
I train at CrossFit Midlow with Big Jake. And then I also train at RVA Performance every so often. And then there's another CrossFit gym I train at. I have athletes. I have a few athletes. I have 2 athletes that train out of a CrossFit gym called Big Gratitude. So I drop in there every once in a while and train there. I'm kind of a nomad. I just kind of go around to different places. Everybody tells me, I never know where you are on from day to day, because I just kind of go everywhere. I traveled to heavy metal last week and trained with Sean and Taylor on Monday and Tuesday. I got to train with Harley and Elena, which was really fun.
They're ballers. It was funny when I asked Sarah to do this podcast with us. she's messaging me, and then next thing I know, I get a text from Taylor Harris, and I like opened it, and it's her and Sarah in the car together. And I'm like, oh great, so Taylor just heard all my voice messages to Sarah. Nice.
That's right. Yeah. But it's like, it's such an interesting thing being out here. We're being a remote athlete and not really having a team to train with. So I kind of have to like create my own support system and put athletes in my path that push me. So Big Jake is one of them. And when I go, I've traveled up to CHPF sometimes and train over there. And like, I had a teammate that trained out of that gym. So we would push each other, and just working out with those girls last week pushed me so much. I snatched 93%.
Nice.
Like totally out of pocket, like not even, not even.
Nice too. It looked real nice.
Like I'm in no shape to hit those numbers. And then I almost PR'd my split jerk. I had a 98% split jerk, which was really fun.
That's awesome.
And I think the most fun that we had was doing our warm-ups. We were doing all this plyo stuff. Sean's crazy. Like the plyo stuff that he programs for his athletes is terrible, but it's fun.
I'm actually, I want to ask you about the plyometric stuff, because I for the past couple months, I've just kind of been like messing around with various types of like training styles and stimulus and things like that. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed was adding more plyometric stuff into either my warm-ups or just the workouts themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know this sounds like silly probably, but like it just makes me feel more athletic when you're doing plyometric work. And I'm curious, what was your experience with doing that stuff with Sean?
It was great. Like we were all kind of standing in a line of two, and we would all go two at a time. We do like pogo jumps, like little bunny hops all the way down and back. And we do like forward bounds. We did these like lateral bounds where we're like stepping and then big hop and then stepping. It was hard to do mentally. I was like, what feet am I going first? And then we did these hurdle jumps, which I think were mentally challenging. It was a 26-inch hurdle, and we lined up 4 of them, I think, and we had to just jump over and then bound up to over the next one. And I actually did them. I was afraid at first, but I did them, and it was great. And we also did some med ball work with plyo stuff with med balls, where you do reverse tosses and like squat jump forward tosses. Yeah.
This may not be as true for you, Sarah, because it sounds like at least some of the time you're doing some CrossFit work where you get to mix in different modalities. But like for anybody who just does weightlifting and just does weightlifting for a long period of time, you get really good at being athletic in one plane, up and down. And you ask them to do athletic things in any other plane, and it's just like, not sure I know how to walk, so like, but like then like trying to do things like what Sean was having you guys do and any other types of work is just like, it's really humbling to remember that like, I'm very good in this one specific like area, but like outside of that, like very raw and very unpolished. And like, like we're all kind of limited by the thing we focus on the most, even if that thing makes us really strong and really powerful and really athletic, like in that specific area.
Yeah, Steve honestly stole my point too. Like I was going to say, like a lot of times I think we forget that like weightlifting is supposed to enhance our general fitness for the most part. Like there's some people that are crazy people, and like when you're elite, like we know it's not always healthy, but like for the general population, like we're doing this to live healthier lifestyles. So why wouldn't we do more plyometric work to like enhance the fitness and like all around fitness instead of in just Steve's plane of sadness,
Steve's plane of sadness. I think we just created a new way to refer to weightlifting. Steve's plane of sadness.
I have been doing plyometrics for, I don't know, a number of years because Chris also programs it.
Nice.
He's been programming plyometrics for us for years.
Yeah.
Real quick, for anyone who doesn't know, plug Chris and who he is and what he does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Chris Amenta is the owner of SoCal Weightlifting. He runs the club. He also is a part owner of Onyx Straps and Maverick Barbell.
Nice.
Cool.
So, and he's an incredible coach. He's been my coach now for almost 8 years.
Great.
So he has talked me off many ledges.
You were telling me about the plyometric work he did. I cut you off
Yes.
because I wanted people to know who you were talking about, but please keep going.
Yeah, so Chris would program us in our GPP block, lots of plyometrics, seated box jumps, and he would pair like the plyo work with a strength movement. So we would do a superset of like, say, back squats, different variations of back squats, whether they're banded, pause, different variations of tempo. And then we would do a set of box jumps right before our squats.
Yeah.
So that really helped, I think, be explosive, because like it's super important to know that like we don't squat like power lifters, we squat like weightlifters. Like the goal is to be fast. Yes. So when you prime with a fast concentric movement or explosive movement, then you hop on the bar and you repeat that same explosiveness with the barbell, the weight on your back.
I think it also helps from a body awareness standpoint. When you're forced to do athletic things in different planes, you have to rely on obviously different muscle groups, things like that. And that can help, when you reel it back into like a weightlifting perspective, like when your coach tells you like something like, try firing this muscle or that muscle or whatever, that may not be a muscle that you're used to relying on in weightlifting, but you may have had to have relied on it while doing one of those other things. And so you can draw back on that to try to then recruit it for the thing that you and your coach are working on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's incredible to see that like there have been weightlifters that have reached out to me that like they have pretty decent numbers with snatch and clean and jerk and squats, but can't jump on a 20-inch box. So like that's
because
important.
They're stuck in Steve's, what'd you say? Steve's plane of sadness.
Plane of sadness.
Yeah, they're stuck there. It's hard to get out. I get it. So you mentioned that when you started out, you were kind of doing some CrossFit and some weightlifting. Do you still, I don't know if it's a 50-50 split, but like, do you still work in both those? Do you still coach CrossFit? Do you still work in some CrossFit workouts to your training?
I don't really work in CrossFit into my training, but okay. I do try to hit, because CrossFit makes me feel good. So like it makes me feel happy. So if I'm feeling, like I'm having a really rough week, I will definitely cherry pick, because there's no need for me to be doing 100 kipping pull-ups. Let me just say that. Or like a mile run. I'm not doing it.
So you're out on Murph.
What'd you say?
I said, so you're out on Murph.
I'm out. Don't count me in on that. Like
nice.
Chad's coming up actually, and you won't catch me doing that either. I have done Chad once, but Chad is 1,000 box step-ups.
You mean Absolutely. He's not the guy in my office?
No.
But yeah, so I'll do a CrossFit workout every now and then. Like I hopped in last week to a CrossFit workout that was like 3 different 5-minute AMRAPs. I only did 2 of them, and it was like a dumbbell, a snatch, and a bike, and a box jump or something like that. Like if it makes sense for me to do it, I'll do it, but I'll do it not with super high intensity. I'll do it just more like moving and maybe in place of some accessories, because, we all know accessories are really, they are the success to our bodies and we need to do them, but sometimes they're boring and it's hard to do it by yourself. So if there are some accessory movements that I have programmed that are very similar to a CrossFit workout, I might just hop into a class and do it with them.
If you could like cherry pick / create your own CrossFit workout, it can include any form of snatching. It can include any form of cleaning or jerking or any of the combinations. Like what would those movements, what would the movements be? What would that workout consist of?
Well, I do love myself a rower or a bike.
Yikes. Oh.
So I like high volume rower or bike. And I do also like strongman implements. So I like sandbags. I like yokes, any odd objects, kettlebell swings. I actually don't like to do snatch and clean and jerk in workouts. I avoid them because moving a heavy barbell fast is not something that sounds fun to me.
So not only not fun, which I agree with, but like, I'm curious from your perspective as someone who has coached CrossFit for some time. I've tried articulating this many times to many different people and have yet to succeed. But the way that people do weightlifting movements in a CrossFit setting, you would coach that entirely differently than you would coach it for like someone doing a weightlifting meet. And part of that is, I imagine a lot of it is like the touch and go nature of it by necessity in CrossFit. But like, what has your experience been? Like, you can't necessarily give the same advice, the same cues to a weightlifter that you would to like, your class of 8 to 15 people in CrossFit. I imagine. Has that been your experience or no?
I actually disagree with that. I feel like you can
Okay.
give them those nuggets. And yes, we only have like 20 minutes to work on a snatch, but you give them one cue or like one or two things to work on. And a lot of the times it's, the pull and getting the bar into the hip, because a lot of times what will happen is CrossFitters will completely miss their hip and just kind of pull from the ground all the way up, or they'll shoot their hips into the bar and the bar will come way away. So I think that focusing on the pull, slowing the pull down, and just taking that time to get those couple of nuggets in. And I am a weightlifter, obviously, and then the GM of my gym is also a weightlifter. So when we teach weightlifting, we teach it very similarly to how we would teach somebody the movements in a weightlifting setting.
So
we work from top down. Yep.
So what you're saying is that the reason that I have not been able to articulate it successfully is because my position was fatally flawed from the outset.
I guess.
All right, listen, we're all growing here. We're all learning.
No, I think that you might underestimate CrossFitters' ability to learn weightlifting properly.
That does sound like me. Yeah.
I mean, we were all newbies in the first place at some point anyway, like shooting our hips and not getting contact with our hips at all. So like, what makes them any different?
Listen, I'm going to be honest. I often underestimate CrossFitters' ability to learn weightlifting. I also, no offense, I also often underestimate CrossFit coaches' ability to coach weightlifting. I am who I am.
It's fair. I mean, it's fair. It's not, CrossFit the coaching is not the same across all gyms. So I can see that. What
in your weightlifting year, like how do you map out when to do a competition, which competitions to do? I imagine I guess I don't know. I can't imagine you're doing like 7 competitions a year. So like,
no,
given all of your responsibilities and all the things that you're doing, how do you decide, I'm going to do this local competition as a setup to this national competition, or like, what does that look like for you?
Well, I think that is a good question, and it's very different this year than I think it has been in the past years. I would just usually only peak once, maybe twice a year. I'd be lucky to peak twice a year, but like the majority of the meets I was doing before were like maybe Masters Nationals was a big one to peak for. And then 2022 is my first in-person AO finals. So I peaked for that in 2022, and I think before that I peaked for Masters Nationals 21. So it was like March and then December, or maybe it was the same year, March and December of the same year. I can't really remember. ADHD brain. I don't really hold dates very well, but I do remember I was trying to qualify for senior nationals. So it was really important that I peaked for Masters Nationals. I missed the total. So then we went back to the drawing board. I missed it by like 3 kilos. And then we went to the drawing board, and then I peaked in December, and then made the total in December for Senior Nationals 23.
Nice.
I want to make sure my notes are correct. You started seriously competing in weightlifting as a master, and subsequently qualified for Senior Nationals. And your statement is that strength is not something that you possess in excess. I'm still confused on your position here. You're going to have to try a little harder to convince me that your strength is not a strong suit for you. Please. I'm
a super, so I'm a super heavyweight, and a lot of times
you're super strong. Like you're making my point for me, Sarah. Please.
I definitely think my technique is stronger than my actual strength. My best front squat triple is 107 and my best clean is 107. So I'm like a very efficient lifter. My best back squat triple is 133. So I know that there are other supers that can squat in the uppers of like 50, 60, 70, even 80, 180. And I even know there's a weightlifter that I'm friends with. She's a master. She's a super. Her name is also Sarah, and she can back squat 200 kilos, which is insane.
That is
So
insane.
it is insane. Especially the fact she's a master. She's got 2 kids, and she's one of the strongest people I know. And I'm still, and what's really cool to me is that even though I lack in raw strength, I'm still able to like push myself to compete at that level, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Truly.
It's a huge tribute to you. I'm not going to give up on this point. I just want to point out that the presence of other strong people does not mean that you are not
Correct.
possesses...
I feel like I am. Okay, I get your point. I'm strong. Yes, Steve. I'm
Old
strong.
highlight
Thank you.
Listen, I'm glad we can agree that I was right, and now we're gonna move on because like this is the peak for me. Like it's not gonna get any better than Sarah admitting that I was right this entire.
But you have to see where I'm coming from.
I do.
Okay.
I get your point. I get your point. But also for anyone who missed it, she said I was right. She definitely said I was right. My last question that I think we really need to spend some time focusing on: how much of a burden is Big Jake on a daily basis? Do your shoulders ever get weary from having to like succeed and also drag him along, or like how does that work for you?
I really don't. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to I don't think I'm going to give you the answer you're looking for, because I feel like Jake is the biggest bully I know. He bullies me all the time. However, I'm not saying I don't deserve it. I feel like I deserve some of the bullying that he is dishing to me. We push each other for sure. Like Jake has been a really great training partner for me, and I'm glad that it's been tough that he hasn't been training since Cooper's been born. I love training with him, and he only trains like twice a week now. So, and we miss each other because I'm not always at mid-low, so that's tough. So I think he dishes it even more when he does see me, because he doesn't have the opportunity to do it 3 days a week like he was before. Nice. At one point we were training 4 days a week together, and I was like, damn, like I'm starting to get tired of you. Like
No, I my question obviously was in jest, but I am curious, when you have someone like Big Jake, like for anyone who has not had that experience of training with someone on a daily basis who pushes you and who like you genuinely feed off of one another in a positive, like it's hard to articulate what that does, how much that elevates your training. And since I certainly am going to fail at that, Sarah, would you like to give a crack at like explaining, I guess, the difference it makes when you have that presence on a consistent basis and how you guys help each other, as opposed to the times when, you got to show up at, 5 a.m. some Tuesday because like that's the only time you can train and it's just you alone. There's a difference there.
Yeah. I think for me, it keeps me out of my head. Like you get to feed off of their energy. They're going heavy, I'm going heavy, and we're just continually feeding off each other's energy. And you have less time to like think negatively about whatever is going on in your head. It just kind of keeps you in check with your internal like monologue with yourself. And also when Jake lifts very intensely, like when he goes heavy, he like flips a switch and it's like intense in there. And that's also an energy that I can feed off of. Like when he's intense, I'm intense. When I'm intense, he's intense. And there is like a good amount of joking around that keeps the atmosphere kind of light in there, but it turns on when it needs to. And I think that's what's really important, is that when you have a training partner that can flip the switch, that can like chat with you and when you need to chat, but also like turn it on when you need to turn it on. Like we would hardly ever wear headphones. Like he never wears headphones, but sometimes I do. And that was just part of the atmosphere with us. So it was a good time. And he makes fun of me and tells me I'm a big weenie all the time. So that helps.
Abby, you're a big Jake fan. please talk some shit real quick. We gotta end this on a we can't end this on a Jake's presence is positive note. We gotta like bring him back down to earth a little bit, you know. All right, well, that's our show.
He's gonna love this. He's gonna love this. The fact that we can't talk shit on him.
It was really funny.
More prepared to ruin Big Jake's ego.
Well, he told me too. He was like, "You're gonna, get me back for all the things I've said about you." And to be honest, I didn't even know he said bad things about me.
He didn't say bad things. That's the thing. Is like he talks a lot of game, but like honestly, deep down, he's just like he's got a heart of gold. He means it from like the best place. But also, he is a big Orange Rain hater, so like I can't give him too much credit.
Well, orange is a really terrible flavor.
We're done. This is enough. I've had enough. Bye, guys.
All right. Before the people on either side of me come to a close, thank you everybody for being here. One real quick thing. We have the Just Strong Open coming up November 24th. If you are looking for a low pressure meet and you want to,
and you're a woman.
Thank you. That is a requirement. Chris Cameneras, you can't sign up for this one. You got to take this one off. But for anyone else who's looking for a good local meet, this is going to be at DCW. Is that correct?
Yes.
I believe that's correct.
At DCW, and Mike Choi will take you for ice cream afterwards. Confirmed.
Great. He's got to hold up to his end of the bargain now. We've committed him to it. But that is November 24th. If you are looking to compete, please compete. It's going to be a good time. If you are looking to get more exposure to what weightlifting meets look like, please volunteer.
Yep.
It is.
Sunday. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving too, so I don't want to hear any excuses about the holiday. Like, come on, you can still have your Thanksgiving turkey and make weight the Sunday before.
Yes, sign up for the Just Strong Open because Abby doesn't want to hear your stupid excuses. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's show. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Sarah, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody have...
Thanks for having me.
See you, everybody.